My wife cheated, thinking she had found someone better. She laughed in my face and said, "I'm leaving you." She truly believed she had upgraded. But just a few weeks later, the man she chose over me dumped her. Then she called me, crying and begging for another chance. I just smiled. That night was supposed to be special. We were celebrating our anniversary at an upscale restaurant. The ambience was perfect. The soft glow of candlelight flickered across the table, and a jazz band played gently in the background. For a moment, it felt like time had paused, wrapping us in a bubble of love and connection. For a split second, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, things would turn out the way we had always dreamed. Then, she leaned forward, a smirk on her lips, one I had never seen before. A chill ran down my spine. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice unnervingly calm. It should have set off alarms in my head, but instead I nodded, expecting something sentimental, maybe even a sweet declaration of love for the years we had spent together. Her next words shattered that warmth. They sliced through the soft jazz, the clinking of silverware, and the glow of the restaurant. "I've met someone else, and I'm leaving you." My chest tightened. The world around me blurred. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear anything else. She took a sip of her wine as if her words were nothing more than casual conversation. Her eyes stayed locked on mine, carefully studying my reaction. Heat rose to my face, but I swallowed the bitterness that threatened to rise in my throat. I forced a smile, not because I wanted to, but because I had no other choice. "That's great," I muttered. She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. "You're not mad." I looked at her, searching for the woman I once knew. But all I saw was a stranger, someone who had decided her happiness mattered more than the years we had built together. "No," I said, my voice cold. "Just don't come crawling back when he leaves you too." Her laughter rang out, sharp, cruel, mocking. "That's never going to happen. He's everything you're not." She had no idea what was coming. That night, she packed her bags and left without a second thought. The weight of her absence settled over me slowly, like a cold mist creeping in, suffocating any warmth I had left. I didn't beg. I didn't argue. I just stood there, watching the woman I had loved, someone I had trusted with my heart, walk away for another man. The very next day, she moved in with him, as if I had never even existed. And me? I waited, because I knew the truth. I had nothing left to lose, so I watched, like an outsider, as her new life slowly began to fall apart. At first, she flaunted her happiness, sharing every detail online. Lavish dinners, weekend trips, romantic getaways. To the world, she looked blissful. But I knew better. I always knew perfection was a lie. At first, everything seemed flawless for her. Living the dream, right? A new man, a luxurious life, everything I supposedly couldn't give her. But slowly, almost too subtly to notice, the cracks began to form. Her social media posts became less frequent. The smiles in her pictures started looking forced, like they were rehearsed for an audience that wasn't even there. Then whispers began to reach me, mutual friends, people who had once been close to us. They had seen the signs long before I did. They told me things weren't as perfect as she had made them seem. Not even close. But still I said nothing. I did nothing. I just waited. In the meantime, I focused on myself, on healing, on rebuilding the parts of me that her betrayal had torn apart. But if I was being honest, I wasn't just healing. I was planning. Then one night it happened. A friend sent me a text that hit like a punch to the gut. The words were simple. "You won't believe this, but she just got dumped." At first, I couldn't believe it. I refused to. The world she had built was too perfect, too carefully curated for something like this to happen. But then, the pieces started falling into place. Her so-called perfect man had grown bored. He had moved on to someone else, leaving her in the same emptiness she had left me in. Her world had collapsed. She wasn't a victim. She was just another person who had made a terrible decision, convinced she was upgrading, only to end up with nothing. I won't lie, I felt a bitter sense of satisfaction. The woman who had tossed me aside so easily, who thought she was better than me, was now facing the same loneliness she had once condemned me to. Days later, I received the text I had been expecting. "Can we talk, please?" I ignored it. Then another. "I made a mistake. Can we meet?" Then a call. More texts. One after another, like a dam breaking, until I couldn't ignore them anymore. She was desperate. She was broken. And yet, the part of me that had once loved her, the part one thought had died, felt something stir. Guilt, maybe. But more than that, I felt power. She needed me now. The man she had so easily walked away from. I let the tension build until I finally answered her call. "What do you want?" My voice was calm, colder than I intended. Her voice trembled. "I was wrong. I miss you. Can we fix this?" I couldn't help but smirk. This was my moment. I agreed to meet her. Same restaurant, same table, the place that had once been our sanctuary. Now it was just a cold reminder of what she had done. She sat across from me, eyes swollen from crying, her face pale and exhausted. "I was stupid," she whispered. "I thought he was better, but he wasn't. Can we start over?" I took a deep breath, letting the silence stretch between us. She had thought she had won. She thought she had everything she wanted. But now I was in control. I leaned back in my chair, my face unreadable. "No." Her expression crumbled. "But we were happy once," she protested, her voice cracking with desperation. I shook my head. "No." "I was happy. You were just looking for something better. And now you have nothing." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. I stood up, left some cash on the table, and walked away without a second glance. I didn't look back. As I stepped outside, I thought about her for a brief moment. She had lost everything. She thought she could replace me. But in the end, her choices had led her here. I had my dignity intact. And that was something she would never have again. She believed she was choosing a better life. But in the end, she lost it all. And I walked away from the ruins of our past, a man reborn. Stronger. Wiser. No longer a victim.